This is 8 Minutes, a podcast helping you understand the energy and climate challenge in just a few minutes. I'm your host, Paul Schuster. The IRA supercharged climate action, spurring investment into renewable energy, hydrogen, advanced manufacturing. According to Goldman Sachs, it could subsidize up to $1 trillion into clean energy technologies. The primary means to do so isn't through direct cash payouts, though. It's through tax credits. In order to ensure that those credits were actually used, though, the IRA needed to reimagine how credits were going to work. Our old system of tax equity needed to be supplemented with a system of tax transferability. This episode is all about how this new system works and the impact it is already having on climate tech investment. 8 minutes. It's how long it takes the sun's rays to hit Earth. Or in honor of Labor Day, it's about how long you should spend thinking about work stuff today. Let's get it on. The IRA doesn't just give cash to renewable energy developers. The mechanism that the federal government uses to promote projects is through tax credits. So every dollar in a tax credit can be used to offset, by a dollar, the taxes that you owe back to the IRS, which is powerful because then developers can sell those credits to companies who have big tax burdens. Say they sell $1 million of credits to a big bank for about $750K. The bank now pays $1 million less on their taxes and only paid $750K for that, while the developer gets $750K to invest into their project. These tax credits have been around for a while, but the process to unlock them has always been a pretty convoluted one. The tax equity requirements meant that the developer couldn't just sell those credits to a big investor. They needed to be allocated as part of a partnership structure on the project. Essentially, the investor would own the majority of the project in order to access the credits, and then after a certain amount of time and metrics had been hit, the ownership would flip to where the developer owns the majority and the investor's involvement is lessened. That is tax equity. Big projects, big investments, big complications. These are projects that typically are above $100 million in tax credits, and, well, that limits the type of investors that can really participate. Crux, a climate marketplace that has emerged since the IRA was signed into law, estimates that about 80% of the tax equity marketplace was basically managed through 10 investor entities at about $18 billion per year or so. That isn't enough to unlock everything that the IRA is meant to do. Credit Suisse estimates that our annual tax credit market needs to scale from that $18 billion per year to something on the order of $83 billion per year, which means the legislation needed to rethink how tax credits could be monetized if there was ever to be any hope of seeing that happen. As a result, the IRA introduced a couple of new mechanisms. The first was a direct pay option, where literally the government sends cash to nonprofits for the investments that they make into renewable projects. Makes sense. They're nonprofits, so they don't have a tax burden and wouldn't be able to use tax credits in the first place. The IRA simply makes it easy and says, hey, here's the cash equivalent. For for-profit companies, the IRA simplified the tax credit process through something called transferability. This process essentially allows renewable projects to sell their tax credits directly to a company. No weird, obtuse partnerships and flip structures involved. Understand the difference? In the old structure, the investor needed an ownership stake, so the process had to involve these convoluted partnership arrangements. Tax transferability simplifies that and allows investors to simply buy the credits in kind of an open marketplace. This has a lot of benefits. For one, it has opened up the tax credit process to a lot more entities. Now, just about anyone with a tax burden can buy a $1 tax credit for about 80 or 85 cents on the dollar. That enables companies to invest in more renewable projects and gives them a nice little return on that invested dollar. Notice that the transfer rate on those credits has gone up too. The old system had to price in the complexities, legal costs, and risks of tax equity financing, whereas transferability can transact easier. Oh, there still needs to be a discount, and the project risks are still very real. But instead of 70 cents on the dollar, Crux and other marketplaces are seeing 85 or even 90 cents for the sale. That's good news because it means that the effectiveness of each dollar that the IRA is subsidizing is far better as well. more of that subsidy is actually financing renewable projects and not just reducing a tax burden for a wealthy bank. Transferability has also lowered the deal size that developers are seeking. Instead of hundreds of millions of dollars, much smaller deals are materializing, with most transferability deals happening below $50 million, which means that more distributed, smaller projects are getting built on the back of these tax credits. And it's not just renewable projects that are benefiting from this new tax credit structure. The IRA includes tax credits called 45X for advanced manufacturing, and those credits are seeing a very robust market so far. Both domestic manufacturing and clean energy are seeing a boom. The new structure, though, does not mean that traditional tax equity has gone away. There are still some benefits to traditional tax equity financing that the new transferability rules just couldn't address. Chief among these is something called MAKERS, or Modified Accelerated Cost Recovery System. What MAKERS does is essentially accelerates the depreciation a big project can claim on its capital investment. In accounting terms, a company can claim depreciation of assets against their profit in order to lower their profit and in return the taxes that they need to pay. So accelerating that depreciation means you can lower your taxes more in current years and not have to wait the full 30 years or so that a project is expected to be in service. Transferability, it doesn't really address this. So some institutions have continued to invest via project equity financing in order to take advantage of this accelerated depreciation. But as with any market change, innovations are starting to emerge that are trying to take advantage of both sides of the coin, namely hybrid models where the project partnership is established and then credits are sold independently, allowing the project to value both the depreciation and the new tax credit marketplace. Will those new models start to emerge as the de facto choice of investors? Maybe, though it also implies big utility scale projects may be the only option worth going through the hassle to invest behind. What's likely to happen is that three types of tax investing will occur: traditional tax equity, tax transfers, and then this hybrid concept. Tax transferability has a lot of implications for clean energy growth in the US. It's an important mechanism that the IRA has introduced to scale up the investment needed to subsidize not only renewable projects, but the advanced manufacturing needed for the clean energy economy. I'm Paul Schuster, and this has been your 8 Minutes.